Hello, everyone, and welcome to the local campaign. I'm Francis D'Souza from City News. On October 19th, Canada will elect the 42nd Parliament, and Rogers TV is the only station producing debates of all of Toronto's 25 ridings. For the next hour, you will hear from the candidates of Willowdale. 2015 marks the beginning of electoral riding redistribution, so boundaries in the majority of ridings have changed, along with some riding names. So before we introduce the candidates, let's take a closer look at the newly redrawn riding of Willowdale.
The riding of Willowdale is bordered on the north by York Region and on the south by Highway 401. Bayview Avenue is the defining eastern edge, and a portion of the west branch of the Don River and Bathurst Street mark the riding's western limit. The riding's hub is the busy intersection of Yonge Street and Finch Avenue. Travel south along Yonge Street and you'll find the North York Civic Centre and Mel Lastman Square. Other landmarks in this riding include Centrepoint Mall at Yonge Street and Steeles Avenue, the Claude Watson School for the Arts, and the Toronto Centre for the Arts. The incumbent MP for Willowdale is Conservative Party member Chungsen Leung.
Well, it is time to meet the candidates, and each will be given 1 minute to make their opening statement. This will be done in the order of the most seats by party in the House of Commons. So first we begin with Chungsen Leung from the Conservatives.
Thank you. This riding is a pivotal riding in the good part of Toronto. In this election, we're looking at will be determining the future of Canada in the longer term. The Conservative Party will address the issues of job creation, economic prosperity, and long-term growth. Now, how do we do this? Well, we do this with providing lower taxes for all Canadians. And let me explain to you how lower taxes will help drive the economy. Lower taxes puts a dollar back in the consumer. Consumer then turns that 5 times by buying from the retailer buying from the wholesaler buying from the manufacturer, and the manufacturer buying from the original producer, whether they be a miner, a farmer, or in the forestry. So job creation to us is one of the most important aspects of this election.
Thank you. Let's move on to our next candidate from the NDP, Pouyan Tabasinejad.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to first of all thank Francis and my fellow candidates for coming today. And so I am Pouyan Tabasinejad. I am running for the NDP because I'm tired of seeing Canada go down the wrong path. For me, the last straw came when the Liberals and Conservatives voted for Bill C-51, which Amnesty International, along with prominent lawyers and scholars, agree violates our basic human rights. As a trained historian, I know that if we keep electing the same people, we will keep going in the same direction, and one that only benefits the few. If we truly want change in our government, we need new, diverse representation. Since, with all due respect to my colleagues, we are not all middle-aged lawyers and entrepreneurs. We need more young people, we need more women, and we need more racialized people in Parliament. The NDP, led by Tom Mulcair, has the most diverse slate of candidates and is the only truly progressive party in this election. I've lived in Willowdale for 9 years, and I'm invested in this community. Together, we can put Canada and Willowdale in a new, better direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Pouyan. Let's go next to Ehsassi from the Liberal Party.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you ever so much for allowing us this opportunity to debate each other. My name is Ehsassi. It's been my privilege over the course of the last year to be the federal Liberal candidate in Willowdale. Now, many of you I have met. I have knocked on your doors. What I have heard is that you are looking for leadership from the government. The concerns that have been expressed are that you're concerned about the need for economic growth, for job creation. You're concerned about protecting those social programs that are necessary to ensure that we strengthen the middle class. And you have told me that you're concerned about investing in infrastructure. These are all issues that as Liberals, the Liberal team, we take very, very seriously. So I invite you to actually look at our platform before the election on October 19th, and I would very much welcome your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, let's move to our independent candidate, Birinder Singh Ahluwalia.
Thank you, Francis, and thank you for inviting me here. And it's good to meet all the candidates from Willowdale. Ladies and gentlemen, On October 19th, your vote will decide what kind of country you want to live in and what kind of country we want our children to grow in. I'll get straight to the point. We all know where our country stands on various important issues that face us today: healthcare, climate change, protection of our environment, issues facing our seniors, our youth, how we treat our citizenship. Are we building the rich legacy that will make Canada envy of the world? Are we going to leave our country in a better shape for our children to inherit? We all know how we arrived where we are today. Politicians often sacrifice principles for the party. Seeking your vote as an independent candidate, I will make you only one promise, and the promise that I will keep. As your independent member of parliament, I will make sure that the issues that are important to you stay on the agenda, they get addressed, and I'll be focused on getting the job done. Throughout, not just during the election, I will be only answerable to you. I look forward to sharing my thoughts with you today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It is now time to begin our question and answer period of the debate. So each candidate will be given 30 seconds to respond, followed by discussion. So are we ready to begin? Okay, let's begin with the topic of immigration. And during the ongoing migrant crisis, the current government of Canada has committed to resettling 10,000 Syrians by September 2016, in addition to the ongoing commitment to take in 23,000 Iraqi refugees. At the same time, Canada accepts just over 250,000 immigrants every year, the highest intake per capita in the world, with an emphasis on skilled workers. Should we be taking in more refugees and more immigrants, or fewer? This is an important issue in Willowdale, where over 14% of the population came to this country in just the last 5 years. So Ali, you can begin with your answer. You have 30 seconds.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing up that issue. As you know, on this issue that came up during the second and third week after the writ was dropped, what Canadians have seen is a lot of talk from the Conservative government, but no action. I think, as you know, the Liberals, it's been over a year that we've been saying that we should be part of the solution to the humanitarian crisis in Syria. I think it's high time we actually joined our allies to ensure that we are responsive to what is going on in the region, and we are part of the solution along with our other allies.
Okay, thank you. Birinder.
We need immigration. This country needs a very stable, solid immigration policy that not only addresses the short term, but the long term as well. Let's look at the record. Even refugee Syrian crisis, as I go in the riding and talk to constituents, they say the response of the government was starting with disorganized response to falsehood, to fear mongering, and then we got our act together and we started talking numbers.
Okay, thank you. I'll have to hold you there.
I just want to say one thing. I'll
Well,
take the cue from...
You know what,
sorry.
let me hold you there, because it is, you've just passed your 30 seconds. We'll have time to debate the issues during the open part of the debate. Chungsen?
Well, let me correct the facts a bit. In the last year, we actually brought in 280,000 immigrants from around the world. Yes, we have the highest immigration record since we assumed power in 2006, ramping it up to 250,000 per year. Regarding the refugees, we need to have a number that we can handle. We need to resettle them properly. We have already put out about $600 million to settle all the immigrants that we brought in including refugees and...
Okay. Thank you. Pouyan.
Okay, thank you for bringing this up. I agree that this is a very important issue. I came to this to this country as an immigrant, and yeah, it's very important. But see, the problem right now is, again, I agree with Mr. Ehsassi that there's a lot of rhetoric that we should be part of the solution, but unfortunately right now we're actually part of the problem. Where we are bombing in Iraq, we are bombing in Syria, and we're contributing yet again to the humanitarian crisis that was caused by Western intervention to begin with. So we have committed to bringing in more refugees from Syria, and this is our plan, and this is very important, and we'll talk more.
Well, the floor is open, so let's begin the discussion.
I think I'd like to finish the thought that I started, that we need a well thought out, structured immigration policy. We should not only talk about numbers. I'll take this cue from Pope Francis when he came to the United States and said that we should look at these people and persons, not numbers. So if you look at our response in the Syrian crisis, the deficiencies we have in our immigration system became apparent, that it is totally incoherent. It's not well structured. We dismantled the refugee processing part of our immigration department to a level where we were scrambling when this problem came forward. Please go ahead.
Well, I think one of the things we should look at is draw on our own history. If we look back over the decades, we will all recall when there was a crisis in Hungary and refugees who came from that country in the 1950s. If we look at the 1970s, where we welcomed Ismailis to Canada, and then later on in the 70s when we welcomed the Vietnamese, we have a history here, and that history has been welcoming people who have been struck by disaster. We know that they will come here and they will contribute. And of course, my conservative friend will obfuscate the issue by saying that we're saying there should be no screening or no process in place. Those processes should be in place, but we should join other countries in the international community to make sure that 25,000 refugees from that region can come here and contribute to our society.
Let me suggest that my little friend here is not also obfuscating the issue, because of the 800,000 people that we bring in, there are a certain number set for refugees. And when we bring people in, we have to make sure that they have jobs to go to. We have to make sure that there's a way to resettle them. Otherwise, they will lose the purpose of coming to Canada. I mean, they would end up being another person that is waiting for a job, and they would lose their self-esteem here. So we need to resettle them properly. We need to have English training. We also need to do adequate security check and medical check prior to admitting them. So that is the process that we go through. And we will go to the United Nations camps, and all those who are legitimate, genuine refugees, Canada will accept. And we have overwhelmingly punch above our weight in accepting refugees internationally.
This is, in fact, this is untrue. We do not accept more refugees than other countries. This is an absolute lie, but that has been that the Conservatives have been feeding our country. We need, first of all, the security checks are already in place, the medical checks are already in place. This is an excuse used by the Conservative government to pretend like that, to give them a reason to not accept these refugees. We need to, and again, with all due respect, self-esteem is not what these people are coming for. Okay, these people are coming because they're desperate. They're risking their lives to come to get out of war-torn situations, and we need to be there to help them. Especially because the Conservative government has made us a part of this problem directly, because we were the ones that when we went into Iraq, we went into Syria, and we are bombing right now. So this needs to be addressed. And unfortunately, one thing that is not being spoken about is how difficult the Conservative government has made it for immigrants to become citizens, for permanent residents to become citizens. The rate has plummeted from correct, I don't have the exact numbers, but from around 75% to around 25% of people that are permanent residents becoming, the citizenship rate has dropped dramatically. So these are all issues that we need to address. We need to. And an NDP government will repeal all of these problems and accept
those NDP numbers are totally inaccurate. Overwhelmingly, 80% of our immigrants coming into Canada become Canadian citizens. I mean, that 20% value is totally untrue, and I am well aware of this because I do sit on the Committee for Citizenship and Immigration.
This is from an article on Start. This is not untrue.
Birinder.
I just want to say two things. First, when the Syrian refugee crisis erupted, our Prime Minister, our leader, went on television and claimed that we admit more refugee per capita than any other country, which was an untruth, which was a false statement. So we lost on the international stage our credibility. The second is, I'll pick up Mr. Leung's point regarding that we need to make sure that they have jobs. I don't think it's the Canadian government job to create jobs for the immigrants. When they come here, they work hard, they have skills. We should facilitate their credential process. We have doctors who have degrees from other countries, and they have been working as taxi drivers. They can't find jobs. So I think both the arguments that Mr. Leung is giving don't hold water.
That is also incorrect because in our resettlement process, there is over $600 million dedicated to resettlement of immigrants and refugees. And out of that $600 million includes English tests, includes foreign credential recognition, and we're evaluating all that with respect to the professional associations that are doing this. Now, we don't all just bring in professionals. I mean, there are engineers, doctors. You don't necessarily bring in a whole nation of professionals. We also accept people with skilled trades, people who have, if they have 4 or 5 years experience in whether it's glass cutting, whether it's in bricklaying, we also fully accept those as being a contribution.
Let me let
to
Ali
Canada's
jump
economy.
in. Go ahead.
Mr. Leung, Canadians have had the opportunity to look at your policies insofar as refugees are concerned, and we know full well that the Conservative government has been inhumane towards refugees. It didn't take the crisis in Syria for Canadians to realize that. What we do know is that there is a humanitarian crisis going on, and talk by the Conservative government will not allow us to resolve that.
Let's go back to that immigration
in this
problem.
particular, insofar as this particular issue is concerned, we know what the record of the Conservatives is, and you cannot now look at us and say that you do care about the refugees in Syria.
Immigration problem is much greater than just the 25,000 refugees that you talk about. Let me explain to you
We're
that
talking
there
about
is
the
over
refugees
4
here.
million refugees
We're talking about
in
refugees
Turkey,
here.
of which 2 million are in Turkey, 1.5 million are in Jordan.
Absolutely.
25,000 is not going to solve the problem. We need to solve the problem on the ground.
So what is your
is more
solution
bombing
to-
the answer? Is more bombing the answer?
What is your solution?
More bombing?
We will negotiate diplomatically and back it up with our coalition
Well,
partners.
you said
Who are
that
you
the reason
negotiating
why
with?
you weren't bringing refugees here is you were concerned about jobs. I
Absolutely
do
not.
not believe that Joe Clark was actually looking for jobs for refugees when he did the Canadian thing and let in Vietnamese boat people in the late 1970s.
but he did
These
it-
are excuses, Mr.
He did it, but
Mr.
putting
Leung.
in
You
the
know full well that,
refugees
that
in
your
every
government has been very difficult on refugees. You have even seen fit to actually cut medical benefits for refugees, something that went to court, and it was demonstrated that what you were doing and your
we are
government
still
was doing
appealing
was
that
wrong.
those refugees who abuse, those immigrants who abuse our system will not be entitled to medical health.
This is exactly the reason that why we need an independent candidate in the parliament. It's always about dollars or numbers. And dollars and numbers are being spewed out during the election campaign with no confirmation. I have tried to find all to match the dollars and numbers being spewed out, and I can't find if they're true or not. So we have to move away from dollars and numbers, and we have to move towards solid policy making that Canadians want. And one of the things that I find during this discussion very interesting is that Mr. Leung keeps on bringing about these issues about this is not going to help, that is not going to help, this is very little, that is very much. I think we have to start somewhere. Then only we can build on it to have a solid, consistent policy. If every time we say that we need 100% results before we embark on that mission, that's not the right attitude.
Pouyan?
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting that anytime we have to start tightening our purse strings. When it comes to refugees and vulnerable people. Why don't we think about how much our mission in Syria and Iraq were going to cost? Your own defense minister has said that it would cost $528 million by the end of this year, by this time next year. So why don't we address that? We think, and we've said from the beginning, before that horrible picture of that boy came about, we've said from the beginning what we want to do is stop the bombing campaign, stop wasting money and stop killing people overseas, and use that money and to aid humanitarian efforts, whether it's bringing over refugees or helping. There are refugee camps, as Mr. Leung said, there are refugee camps in Syria, in Iraq, in Jordan, in Turkey, and we need to be at the forefront of funding these camps and making sure that they can take care of the people that are living there.
In my work experience, I have supplied refugee housing to those areas, and I should inform you that without the political security, without the stability in the region, any amount of humanitarian aid is not going to be of any use. It just gets wasted.
Is stability bombing? Does bombing bring stability? I agree with you. Stability would be great. Stop bombing the countries. Stop
Like I
the
said,
bombing.
we have a diplomatic solution first and then back it up with our coalition.
That has
Use
not
the
been
diplomatic solution.
our tradition, Mr. Chungsen Leung. That has not been our tradition. Generally, when disasters like this happen, we roll up our sleeves and we welcome people. We have these people who have come over the decades, have always contributed to Canadian society. So when you say you're concerned about jobs, we should be concerned about jobs, especially after we look at the economic record of the Conservatives over the course of the past 9 years. But do not mix that issue with refugees. When we accept people into this country, we never have jobs available to them.
Mr. Ehsassi,
But
can I ask you
your
what
response for doing nothing about this crisis is to say, we don't have jobs for them.
Mr. Ehsassi, what is your party's position on the military conflict? Or do you want to take Canada out, or do you want to keep Canada in there?
If I could just ask that you actually go look at what we've been saying over the course of the past year.
You're a representative of your party.
We have said, yes, bombing is not the solution in Syria.
So you want to get out of
So
Syria?
I don't know why you have to ask me here.
I'm asking.
I would encourage you to actually go and read what we've been saying over the course of the past year.
You're a representative, and I'm asking.
Yes, absolutely. We have been saying that bombing is not the solution
we are going
to
to
the
stop
crisis in
if
Syria.
there's a Liberal government, we would
Absolutely,
stop.
of course. I would encourage you to go, look at what we've been saying over the
you're a
course of the past
representative,
year.
you're here.
We have squandered away our strengths, our diplomacy, conflict resolution. And we are trying to build ourselves on military capabilities. We know that we do well in military exercises when we go with our allies together, not alone. So we should first concentrate on the strengths we have. We have built it for decades, our diplomacy. That has worked. Canadian prime ministers have got Nobel Prize, Mr. Pearson, for participating in solving the Suez crisis. We are squandering away all the goodwill that we had established over decades that this country could be proud of. But rather, we are looking at little conflicts where we can participate militarily. We should look at it globally, and we should say how we can participate to have the maximum impact. And the maximum impact will come through diplomacy, conflict resolution, which we have the strongest. We don't have any emissaries right now, anywhere in the world.
That is incorrect. We do participate with our coalition partners. We are a strong partner in NATO. This conflict right now that's happening in the Middle East, we are a coalition of one of 60 countries that are doing this. So we are doing that. We need to arrive at some sort of diplomatic, negotiated solution which we can back up with the strength of our coalition army. Now, we just know that there's a possibility that Russia has entered into the conflict, and we need to stand up to Russians. We need to stand up to those countries that are perpetuating this.
So is
Mr.
this
Leung,
a NATO mission?
Mr. Leung, I would like to
No,
disagree
it's
with
a coalition mission.
So but it's not a NATO
it's
mission.
not a
It's not a UN mission.
I would like to disagree with you. If you look at our coalition partners, in the United States, President Obama is talking to Mr. Putin. Our Prime Minister is not talking to anybody in terms of conflict resolution. We need to move towards our strengths, where we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, with all the goodwill that we have. Yes, sometimes military intervention is important. Yes, we support our allies when it comes to military intervention. However, our strength that lies in diplomacy and conflict resolution is being squandered away.
We will participate. We will certainly participate with our allies, such as the United States and the 60 other nations that are involved in the Middle East.
Not in the Middle East, in the Syria crisis. How many countries are involved?
There are 60 countries involved in the Syria
military
crisis.
operations in
Yes,
Syria?
that's
60
correct.
countries, you would
That
say.
is 60 countries.
Interesting.
Okay, why don't we move on to our next topic? That was a good, healthy discussion. Our next question has to do with an issue specific to Willowdale. So over the last few decades, Willowdale has seen a massive increase in construction and population density. In fact, the GTA is the fastest growing region of the province. Many Torontonians feel that our own urban infrastructure is not keeping pace with this growth. We face increasing traffic congestion, crumbling expressways, overtaxed utilities. Everyone agrees we need a massive infrastructure renewal program. So where will we find the money for this essential work? How will your party approach this crucial issue? Chungsen, you can begin.
We recognize that there is a massive infrastructure problem in Willowdale. Matter of fact, for the whole northern part of Toronto, it is key. Now, the federal government alone does not have all the funds to handle an infrastructure building, especially in urban mass transit. Let me explain to you that when I helped build the Vancouver SkyTrain in the 1980s, it cost $25 million per kilometer of track. To use that same figures, it costs today 300 million to do, 3 billion to do 1 kilometer track.
Okay, we have to hold you there.
Yep.
That is your 30 seconds. So
Okay.
we'll come back to it. No worries there. Pouyan?
Okay, obviously infrastructure is a problem. I deal with it every day. I'm sure a lot of Willowdalians or Willowdale residents do as well. We have promised we would give $1.3 billion every year to municipalities to deal with this infrastructure problem and to fund infrastructure projects. But you asked how we would pay for it. Unfortunately, under the Conservatives and the Liberals, and we'll be talking about this more later, corporate taxes have consistently declined since the 60s and the 50s. So this is something that we would use. We said we would raise corporate taxes to pay for these vital services.
Okay, thank you. Ali?
Thank you ever so much, Francis, for that great question. Absolutely, there's no doubt. Knocking on doors in Willowdale, that is one of the priorities in our riding. What residents of Willowdale have seen is several things. First of all, they haven't seen a federal government that is willing to partner with the provincial governments and with municipalities to ensure that infrastructure is developed. And we're hard hit in Willowdale. Another thing they haven't seen from the current government is investment. The federal government has to be a partner with the other levels of government to ensure that finally we do see some movement on infrastructure.
Thank you. Let's hear from Birinder.
As I said, we need immigration. We need infrastructure. But we need an infrastructure of the 21st century, not repaving of the roads and pouring concrete on the pavements. We have to start planning now. Where we are today is because we didn't plan yesterday. So that planning is very essential. This project has to go through vision, through a stage of planning and patience and execution, so that we see the benefits in the future.
Thank you. The floor is open.
Well, let me say how the Conservative government will fund this. We have put in place the Urban Transit Fund, where we will have the sustained funding of about $1 billion a year consistently over long term. Now, coming to the table, it is not the federal government's position to fund an urban transit or directing the funds to be at urban transit. We need the cooperation of the province and the municipality. They all have to come with their partnership of their third of the fund. What we do advocate is that we can get into an area where the three funding principle works, and that is the public-private partnership. In a public-private partnership, the developer can develop the land around the station. They provide part of the revenue for the funding. The federal government provides the capital funding, and the provincial and municipal government provide the operation funding as well as the ongoing funding for improvement, such as Go Transit, such as the Toronto Transit Commission. It is not that the federal government has come to sit down with the province. It's the province haven't emptied up their funds yet. Now, on strict funding alone, we have committed $600 million to the building of the Scarborough Rapid Transit. We have committed over $1 billion for the long-term building of the Yonge Street extension from the Finch Station up until Newmarket. And these are long-term strategic visions. And I quite agree with the independent candidate that we need to look at the entire urban infrastructure planning by looking at land use planning, by looking at immigration levels, and by looking at how we need to structure our cities in order to blend all of this in so that it operates in a cohesive and cooperative manner with the provinces and with the municipalities.
Mr. Leung has said a lot of words, but at the end of the day, we all know after more than 10 years of Conservative rule, our city's infrastructures are deteriorating, especially here in Toronto, and that needs to be addressed. Once again, the Conservative government is happy with downloading costs to provinces, just like the Liberal government did before them. We believe that the federal government has a very important role to play. Again, once again, obviously revenue is an issue, and once again, we've said that corporations should pay their fair share. It's a fact that the corporations' share of our national tax revenue has gone down consecutively under Conservative and Liberal governments, and this is something that we need to address, and this is something that we would address. The Liberals don't want to touch, would rather run a deficit, and they don't want to touch the corporate tax rate because they want to protect their corporate friends, just like the Conservatives do. We are the party for the people, and this is what we would do.
Mr. Tabasinejad, this question is about infrastructure development. As you know full well, we are committed to the largest infrastructure spending in Canadian history. Why? Because just as Mr. Chungsen Leung was saying, Canadians have just sat on the sidelines watching as our infrastructure has been crumbling. The Liberal plan is very simple. We have set up money for infrastructure spending, and there are 3 different categories, and I suppose this is the issue that was identified by the independent candidate here. One of those pockets of money, of course, is for green infrastructure, which will be there and is consistent with the best practices to ensure that we have durable infrastructure in this country. The other 2 pockets are for transit, which is an acute concern to residents of Willowdale. And the third one is social infrastructure. Social infrastructure, money we are devoting to social infrastructure will be for senior residences, for daycares, for community centers and things of that nature. It's absolutely imperative that Canadians finally see 3 different levels of government work together and see some serious attempt to develop the infrastructure in Toronto and indeed in Willowdale.
Mr. Ehsassi, the question was about infrastructure, not so-called social infrastructure or so-called green infrastructure.
Well,
we're talking about roads.
Well, I was just explaining to everyone. I was just explaining to everyone the 3 different.
To move over all your spending and put it into so-called infrastructure and say, oh, look at all the money we're spending on infrastructure.
It's not so-called. There are 3 different types of infrastructure spending that we have committed to.
Daycare is not infrastructure. This daycare is not infrastructure.
I would invite you to actually look at it.
It's ridiculous. I have looked at it. It's ridiculous to say daycare is infrastructure. What is social infrastructure? That's not a word. You can't just keep on saying.
It's actually a term that people who are concerned about infrastructure
if all those people are liberals, I'm sure. Okay, but the issue.
I don't understand why this has to be personal.
It's not about who said personal. I'm telling you. Okay, look.
That is exactly why you. Sorry. That is exactly why you need an independent candidate for fresh ideas, for accountability, for intelligent action. You know, we have to build infrastructure of the 21st century. We just cannot keep on asphalting our roads and pouring concrete on the pavement. We have to build smart pavements. If the Liberal Party would have come out with a plan and details that yes, over the 4 years we were there in Ottawa, we have developed a plan. This is how we're going to execute. $100 billion are going to be spent over the next whatever time they're promised. It's a lot of money. The truckloads of money are waiting in Ottawa, and I'm sure there'll be truckloads outside waiting to get it. The question is, how are we going to spend it? That's where intelligent action comes in. I would have liked in the Liberal platform if they said $100 billion for infrastructure and $1 billion to make sure it is green. Then we cannot think at any one thing in a single box. It is a multifaceted thing. If there's infrastructure is being built, if it's built with the latest technology, it will then spurn jobs in research. It'll spurn jobs in green technology. It'll spurn jobs all over the place, how we want to build it. That is the
I'll
problem.
just say one point. I would really like to invite all of the candidates here to actually look at our platform. Some of the issues that you have raised are very, very legitimate concerns. Absolutely. We have to make sure not only that we are devoting resources to infrastructure spending, but we're doing it wisely. What I can tell you is that the Liberal platform is the most comprehensive platform out there. And I would invite everyone, not just the candidates here, to actually take a look at our platform. And what they will realize is the Liberal Party is in its renewal phase. One of the things we've been doing is listening to Canadians from coast to coast to coast. And what we are trying to do is deal with the challenges and the priorities that Canadians are concerned about.
Okay, Chungsen.
So far, you have said many words, and you have not mentioned one single figure. Just as my NDP colleagues say, you have mentioned all nice words, but the infrastructure is building this, building that.
Part of our platform. We are saying we will double infrastructure spending to $120 billion over the course of the next 10 years.
Constructive suggestions, and that is not building roads. We are building information highway. We're building. This is what the Conservative Party will do. We are looking at information highway. We're looking at connecting the entire city of North York.
Here's one thing we haven't heard about.
government
One
to
thing that we
actually-
haven't heard about is direct money towards the TTC, which I think you brought up, Ali, that it is an important aspect to your
Absolutely.
residents in Willowdale.
Well,
so
direct
who
six-
is
Well, I find it
supporting
really
the TTC?
interesting that Mr. Leung is saying we're looking at various things. The Conservative government has had 9 years to actually do something about the infrastructure challenges of all our big cities. This is not a time to look at things. Canadians actually demand immediate action. And so one of the things that we are heavily committed to is transit and transportation. $20 billion for that. And as for the precise figures are concerned,
Federal government should not be micromanaging urban transit system. Those are the
Mr.
sole
Leung,
responsibility
you know full
of the
well that for
municipality and the
infrastructure
province.
spending, it is imperative that all three levels of government work with each other.
We
Something
will
that this
assist.
government has not been very good at.
So in Canada's largest city, does the federal government not have a responsibility to fund one of the biggest transit systems in the country?
We do fund it. We do fund the York Street extension.
Sustainable,
the Yonge Street
long-term
extension.
funding is what I'm
Stable,
referring to.
stable, consistent funding. We just need the province and the municipality to come to us with a plan that they will activate. And that includes, for example, like the Scarborough Transit Line. Scarborough Transit Line, we have committed $600 million to that program. We have committed over $1 billion to the Yonge Street extension up into Newmarket. We have provided research dollars for Bombardier to do further research in urban transit. I happen to work in the urban transit industry for the better part of a decade. And unfortunately, it was not all done in Canada, but it was done with a vision on how to build cities that rely on socially on urban transit, for example, in Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong and Taipei. So to bring that vision to Toronto or to Willowdale, it is quite possible, but the province and the municipality must come in and be a partner in that.
What I would suggest is that when we are spending so much money, billions of dollars, I would like to see an independent Royal Commission in Ottawa that is involved in short-term and long-term planning of all our major cities and highways to make sure that the transit is built with a vision, with planning, with strategy into the 21st century. So we don't keep on doing what we were doing in the 20th century. We have not even embarked on that. That's where it comes along, whether we're giving $1 billion here, whether we're giving $1 billion there, rather than having a cohesive policy nationwide through a Royal Commission, independent, so that we can not have this discussion in every election cycle that how much we're going to spend on infrastructure.
Okay,
If
let's
I
move
could
on
just
to
say-
our next question, so we can get to our third question here. So, with long wait times and doctor shortages, it is increasingly clear that our healthcare system is not keeping up with the needs of the population. Currently, there is considerable provincial autonomy in healthcare, spending priorities, and coverage varies across the country. Should the federal government play a larger role in managing healthcare? And Pouyan, you can begin with this.
Well, first of all, we need to reverse some of the cuts that have been undertaken first under Paul Martin and under this government as well. At least planned cuts for this government. We need the federal government needs to be a stable partner. Then it needs to be in consultation with the provinces, find out what they need, and make sure they get those transfers. And that is something that we want to do. We want to increase the transfers. Because I mean, population is increased, population is aging, and we need to address that with transfers. So the federal government definitely has a big role to play. But first, we need to reverse the cuts that have been made, and then increase the funding.
Okay, thank you, Ali.
Well, as everyone knows, actually the last Liberal government, one of the things we did do is the Prime Minister Martin, actually met with all the provincial health ministers, and he provided long-term sustainable assistance to the provinces for healthcare. That accord and that agreement actually ran for 10 years. Regrettably, when that accord expired last year, the Conservative government not only decided that they would not follow suit, but they didn't even see fit to actually consult with provincial federal ministers to see how they could be part of the solution.
Thank you. Birinder.
Good quality, timely health care is a fundamental right of every Canadian citizen. In an affluent country like ours, why we are not doing it? It's politicized. I operate 4 diagnostic clinics in GTA. No wait times, best doctors, best technology. Whether the government gives us money, or they cut money, or they give us more money. Standard of care is maintained.
Thank you.
I'm shocked that why we are not doing it throughout Canada.
Okay, thank you. Chungsen?
Both my NDP and my independent opponents have a good point there. The federal government will provide sustainable, consistent funding, and we have done this by increasing it by 6% every year. All you have to do is go and look at the record, contrary to what the Liberal government did, where Paul Martin withdrew some of the funding so that they could balance the budget. We are also recognizing the fact that there is Canadians' aging population will require significant research in brain research in areas that affects mental health, and as Canada's nation of seniors are outpacing that of our teenagers below 15, we know that this is an area where we have to address, and we do have to provide that long-term sustainable funding to the provinces.
But Mr. Leung didn't mention is that sure, Mr. Martin, the previous Liberal government, they did decrease healthcare transfers, and they did download a lot of those costs to the provinces. But the reason they did that was it was to balance the budget, but they also cut corporate taxes considerably, and that worsened the problem. And indeed, this is something that the Conservative government has continued to do. We believe that at the end of the day, corporations should pay their fair share, and Canadians shouldn't pay, whether it's in terms of income taxes or lower quality healthcare, to help out the corporate friends of the Liberals and Conservatives.
I do apologize, since you were referring to the Liberal record. I'm not certain what you're talking about when you actually talk about corporate taxes in healthcare. The issue is about healthcare.
Let me explain to you. They all go to the budget, and we're talking about money. So okay. I actually think money and budgets
if we could just stick to healthcare reform, which is a very significant
reform,
issue
all of this
to address.
Has to be funded.
Absolutely,
okay, so if all
of
this
course,
has to be funded, we have to figure out where it's getting funded. We don't just make up money out of nowhere. So if we're talking about funding,
we didn't talk about providing funding. We actually did, and it was long term. It was a 10-year accord, and it was long-term sustainable funding for provincial healthcare systems. So I find it interesting that the Conservatives say that they're very much interested in the same approach, but we haven't seen any agreement with the provinces. I think it really is high time for the federal government to assume its responsibility and look into this issue.
It's called effective resource management. We just keep on bringing every problem back to the dollars and cents. That we gave $100, we gave $100 million, we gave $1 billion. We have to have enough doctors in this country. So doctor-population ratio is proper. We need nurses in this country. We need hospitals in this country, which are part of our infrastructure. We cannot just look at it as this one problem. It's an immigration problem where we need to immigrate enough number of doctors. They're knocking on our doors. They want to come here. They want to practice here. But we put every hurdle in their way that they cannot practice and provide the services. Then we start saying that we've got wait times. Absolutely. I have 4 clinics. We sometimes process 71,000 patients a year. We make sure that we have got enough qualified personnel employed there who can provide the service. If we don't let people come in to provide the service, we're going to have this problem now. We're going to have this problem 10 years from now. It's going to worsen. So it's an immigration problem. It's a resource management problem. And then we can go to the funding problem.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree
but we have put
more.
the cart before the horse, where we are talking about the funding problems or the funding mechanisms, but we're not talking about resource management. Do we have the resources, the doctors, the nurses, the healthcare professionals who can provide the service?
Well,
Thank you.
I very much agree with what you just said, but it's not that doctors aren't coming to this country. Doctors are coming to this country, but there are so many barriers and hurdles that prevent them from bringing their years of experience and making sure that they can practice in this country. So I would definitely agree with you that as a country, we have to do a much better job making sure that people who are coming here to this country, whether they be nurses or doctors, they be afforded every opportunity to actually join their professions as long as certain standards are met, but a larger number of those be professionally accredited. I think that is absolutely something we should be focused on.
Let me address the question of human resources. Under our new system of express entry, we do allow the province to nominate the people that will come and help our medical system. And we do have foreign credential recognition processing in place, and that we're working very closely with the Canadian Medical Association to do that. Now, under the express entry system, a person applies into a pool, and that pool by the number of points that they have to qualify for immigration rises to the top, and then the province nominates that immigrant, which they then submit to the federal government, which we will employ, which we will allow to immigrate. So this process hopefully will address that human resource problem. And once they come in, the actual day-to-day operation of operating funding is still the prerogative of the province. But the provincial house system does that. All we can, as the federal government, do is provide the funding, the consistent and sustainable funding to them, so that they can operate that system effectively.
But you need to be in consultation with the provinces in order to find out what they need and how to fund those people, fund those medical province-wide programs. So this is an issue we've promised millions of dollars to do it. We've promised $300 million to build more clinics, and we've also promised $200 million to recruit grants for doctors. And I mean, it's interesting that the foreign credentials was mentioned, because under neither the Liberal or Conservative governments has this issue been addressed. We believe that we deserve a crack at it. We've never been in federal government, and we believe if we do, we'll bring about momentous change in all areas, but including this one.
There's a fundamental flaw in what was just said about the provinces nominating and this express credential process that Mr. Leung said. The credentials are being recognized by regulatory bodies, not by the province. If regulatory bodies are not part of this program, it's going to fail. So that's why I'm saying that we need to have policies in place that would make sense, that will cater to our demands, cater to our needs in immigration, resource management in a fashion that we are able to provide services as they should be provided in our affluent country. Why can't we do that in a proper fashion? That's why we need independent thought and intelligent action.
Let's talk about taxes next, because taxes are always a hot issue in every election campaign. In this election, we have seen proposals to raise or lower business and personal taxes, to raise and lower the amount individuals can put in their TFSAs, their tax-free savings accounts, and to continue or abolish income splitting for families and seniors. Now, some critics say our tax system needs an overhaul to make it simpler and more fair. So what do you see as the priority for improving our tax system? And Birinder, you can begin.
Taxation is complex right now. It's not easy to understand. It's open for obfuscation, evasion. It has to be simple. And yes, we need lower taxes, but at the same time, we have to realize that government needs the revenues to provide services. We have responsibility in the government to provide services to Canadians. So we should not only look at that we're going to lower the taxes, then we are lowering the services as well. And we can see that services are being lowered in every sector, whether it's healthcare, it's senior care, it's youth care. So any government...
I'm going to hold you there. Chungsen?
Yeah. Yes, we look at the taxes as a way of holding the whole economy together, because you tax to provide the services. Government tax to provide services. Lower taxes allows more dollars to be given back to the consumer. The consumer, the moms and dads, the people of this society know how best to spend that money, and they know how to invest, just as business do. Business, if you lower their taxes, for example, small to medium-sized business is our backbone of our economy. If you lower their tax from 15% to 9%, they will know how to invest their dollars.
Thank you, Pouyan.
Well, I mean, the taxes are obviously a big issue. A lot of people, we pay a lot of income tax here in Canada, and we think that that's enough. We don't need to raise income taxes. That has been our plan from day one. What we want to do is, first of all, we want to lower the small business tax, because mom and pop, like you said, mom and pop businesses are the ones who make so-called mom and pop businesses are the ones who make most of our jobs here in Canada. But we need to make sure the corporations pay their fair share of taxes, and they're not. Under Liberal and Conservative governments, they've consistently been, the corporate tax has been cut, and that needs to be raised to pay for essential services.
Thank you. Ali?
Absolutely. Since the first day Justin Trudeau was selected as the leader of the Liberal Party, his focus has been on the middle class. So we're not just talk. If you do actually look at our platform, you will find that middle class Canadians will be receiving lower taxes. We think it's high time that middle class Canadians were strengthened. They need all the assistance they can get. One thing that needs to be mentioned is part of the reason why middle class Canadians are having such a difficult time is our economy has been in recession.
And our floor
And
is
for
open
that
now.
reason, we think it's absolutely imperative to provide Canadians with greater opportunity to actually use the reduction in taxes to kickstart the economy. And another part of our platform is to invest in infrastructure.
I'd like the Liberal candidate to explain your middle class, because I heard that the figures are somewhere from 40,000 to 90,000. Now, a 40,000 middle class family lives very differently from a 90,000 middle class family. So, you know, if that spread is so wide, then you might as well stay with the current progressive tax system where everybody is taxed on a progressive rate. I mean, how is your middle class? How are you putting more money back in the middle class when your definition of middle class runs from 40,000 to 90,000?
Absolutely, that's a wide range, and what we are doing is we're maintaining taxes for all classes, except for people who fall into that bracket, which is $40,000 to $90,000. The only Canadians who are expected to pay more are those who need a tax break the least, which is the top 1% of income earners. So I'm not quite sure why that's of concern to you. Your tax breaks for the Conservatives, it always goes to the wealthiest of Canadians. And that's not who we think can actually use a tax break.
We believe
it's
in
people
fair
who fall
taxation.
into.
We believe in everybody pay in a very
Absolutely.
progressive rate at fair taxation, not a whole block of 40,000, 90,000.
I don't
that
think
gets-
you believe in a
let's
fair
be clear, both the
taxation system,
Conservatives and-
because
and-
both the Conservatives and the NDP believe in income splitting. We know full well that income splitting is one of those things that only really benefits the
We're
top
actually against income
15%
splitting. I don't know where Mr.
of
Ehsassi has
Canadians.
gotten this. We're actually against
We
income
are,
splitting.
on the other hand, are not
Maybe
in
it should be
favor of
different policies.
income splitting. The only difference is that we allow for income splitting for seniors.
So the NDPs did say they would cancel income splitting, but
we
go
are,
ahead,
we
Pouyan.
have, like, thank you. We have said that we are against income splitting, and again, we haven't I've been talking about corporate taxes a lot, so I'm going to talk about it again. It's a big issue, and this is our main thing when it comes to taxes. This is our main policy. So again, the Liberals and Conservatives. So from the 60s and 70s, the corporate tax rate was 37%. Then it was reduced under Paul. I mean, it was consecutively reduced, but then under Paul Martin, it was reduced from 27% to 21%. And then once again, under this Conservative government, it was reduced from 21% to 15%. Corporations need to pay their fair share. When Mr. Leung says he wants everybody to pay their fair share, he doesn't mean the corporation. He doesn't mean their corporate friends. Same with the Liberals. They never talk about it. They would rather run a deficit than tax their corporate friends. And we've seen, again, I'm a historian. I mean, I have an MA from the University of Toronto in history, and I know that history has a lot of lessons to teach us. So if once again, the Liberals, all they're doing is helping their corporate friends like they have throughout all of their history, and this is something that we, as the NDP, will reverse, because we are the People's Party and we will reverse it.
I also hope that history tells you
Let's
that.
let Birinder jump in here.
Go ahead. Mhm.
Taxation policy based on ideology is thinking of the 20th century. We need to move into the 21st century. We need fair taxation. By having blind-eyed ideology that we should give tax breaks to the rich or the poor shouldn't pay taxes, what we need is fair taxation so that the government is fully funded, that can provide the services to its citizens. So we need a think tank that will decide what is the best tax policy for our country. It should not be just an election promise. It should be an ongoing thing. And sometimes when we give a tax break, it's good. Nobody wants to pay taxes. I don't want to pay taxes. But we live in a country that provides services. The government looks after us. It looks after Canadians, looks after the disadvantaged. So we need a fair taxation policy, not based on ideology, that low taxes are always good or higher taxes are always bad. We need a fair taxation policy. Thank you.
Chungsen, go ahead.
Precisely why we're so concerned as Liberals to providing middle-class Canadians a tax break. Because we think
Chungsen?
that's
I should
fair.
indicate that you know, in the 21st century, and the Independent candidate has a point that in the 21st century, the movement of money is very easy. It is electronically transferred from one jurisdiction to another jurisdiction by a push of a button. And also in today's world where business is so internationalized, it is hard to find out where the actual profit is made. So one of the issues that we have to deal with is by keeping taxes low, we make sure that there's not a flight of money out of Canada. We need that low taxes to stimulate the economy. We need that low taxes to attract foreign investment. And we need that foreign investment to create jobs in this country.
This is just an illusion that's cast by the Conservatives. The fact is, a third of our GDP is sitting as so-called dead money, what economists call dead money, in corporate coffers. That money should be spread around, and the only way that we can get out of corporate coffers is to raise corporate taxes. And this is what we said from day one. This is something that we need to do. We can't just have. If you get corporate tax breaks, all it does is it allows them to just gather it up and leave it in their bank and do whatever they want with it. We need that. We need to make sure that money's spread around. And if we spend it, it will be spread around. If the government taxes it and then spends it, that will be spread around. That's what we need to do, and that's what we said from day one, unlike the Conservatives and Liberals who refuse to tax their corporate friends.
All right, why don't we move on to our closing statements? We had a good discussion, it was healthy, and we want to hear your final thoughts now. So this will be done in reverse order of the opening statements. So our independent candidate, Birinder Singh Ahluwalia, go ahead.
Thank you, Francis. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I ask you to vote and elect someone who will do the job you have elected him or her to do, who has a proven record in getting things done in public interest. Elect someone who will look after your best interests and those of Canadians, and not of his or her political party. I will bring accountability, transparency, and I will be focused on getting the job done. I'm not here to buy your support. My public service is not predicated on being elected. I have served the community in the past and will continue to do so with integrity and consistency.
Thank you.
However, if you honor me with your trust and elect me as a representative, it'll make it easier for me to serve you more.
Thank
so on
you.
October 19th,
that is your time. Thank you.
please vote for independent voice. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's move next to our Liberal candidate, Ali Ehsassi.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've had the great privilege and honor of actually canvassing in our riding over the course of the last year. And what I do know is that Canadians want to see a government that deals with all the challenges and priorities that they have. What we have done with the Liberal Party is we have focused on those issues. We're focused on making sure that there is pensions for seniors, there's employment for youth, that we deal with the infrastructure problem that we all have to deal with, that there is some leadership, and that we grapple with some of the challenges we all share.
Thank you.
So on October 19th, I would ask that you support me in Willowdale. Thank you.
Let's move next to the NDP candidate, Pouyan Tabasinejad.
Firstly, I want to thank the organizers of this debate and everyone for showing up and for watching. So now that we've had a chance to hear from every candidate, it is clear that only the NDP has the vision for a better Canada, one with better jobs, better healthcare, better childcare. And I want to represent you as a fellow resident of Willowdale, not just a transient politician. I have lived in Willowdale for 9 years and I will continue to be here after this election. I ask you for your support so that together we can put Canada and Willowdale in a new, better direction.
Thank you. And finally, our Conservative candidate, Chungsen Leung.
Thank you, Francis. Ladies and gentlemen, this election is about the long-term future economic prosperity of Canada. We are here today to select elect a government that will best represent you internationally and best represent you in Canada, as well as the job creation aspect, the economic prosperity, and the long-term prosperity that we all came to Canada for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we just want to let you know that the other candidate registered in this riding, James Arruda, the Green candidate, was invited to come today but did decline the invitation. Thank you all for taking part, and thank you at home for watching the local campaign. Airtimes for other debates can be found at rogerstv.com. I'm Francis D'Souza from City News. Bye for now.